ready?
We are ready too.
I wonder, can I record it? Oh, good.
You can record it too.
Thank you. You going to introduce me?
Actually, you can introduce yourself. We introduced you like in every post we did about the class.
Okay, I'll introduce myself. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today, we're going to be talking about the power of the universal rays and what a gift they are to humanity. As many of you know, I have been a channel for the Ascended Masters for 23 years. I channel a council of 33. These are light beings who work to support humanity. I have channeled 3 very big mystery schools, the Master's Way, Open to Channel, and the Path of the One Heart. And I don't know, about 10 years ago, I channeled the universal rays. The Council of Masters asked me to bring through new information about the rays. They had been originally introduced into esoteric circles by Alice Bailey in the 19th century. But the Masters wanted me to update the information. And then they asked me to create a healing program involving the universal rays, which had not been created before. So that took me about 3 years to create through channeling what the Masters gave me. So I'm going to share some of that information with you and how important the universal rays are. The universal rays are not colored light. They're not really rays of light. They are streams of consciousness. And each one of these streams of consciousness, which we call rays, hold specific intention, specific consciousness that supports humanity to evolve, to release its karma, and to heal old wounds that we are very attached to, and that cause us to make choices in our life which no longer serve us to reach our highest potential. Lord Maitreya, who is an Ascended Master, says that when you can change the consciousness of a being, you create healing. Because healing relies on consciousness changing. And once again, what is consciousness? It is energy with intention. So the universal rays are very aligned with the universal laws, which are the laws of this universe, according to creation. They are very much aligned with creation energy and the divine plan. You might call them guidelines that bring you closer to the divine plan for you. And each human has a divine plan for them. There is a divine plan for the collective, and there is a divine plan for each one of us that we have co-created with our own Ascension Council. Because each one of us has an Ascension Council of light beings that guide us. And there are 12 beings on this council that help us walk our path of evolution in the earth plane and in other places. So the universal rays are very different to any other energy that might be used, such as Reiki or simply colored rays or colored light, because they are consciousness that is aligned with the creation principles of this universe that has specific intention. And there's a big difference to say prana, which is prana or chi or ki, as it's called. It's very different to that. Prana is a very gentle energy that evolves from the earth itself, that works with all the elemental energies of the earth. So it works very beautifully with the physical body. It works very well with the physical element of our being, but not necessarily with the higher spiritual aspect of our being, or supporting us to follow our divine plan. Prana is beautiful for bringing balance, for bringing harmony, for bringing that which is out of balance back to balance, that is related to the earth planes. But the universal rays go far beyond that. They are rays of conscious intention that may flow through all of our past lives, flow through all the consciousness we have created as a soul, through all our incarnations. So not necessarily just affecting this lifetime. Now, the universal rays come from plasmic energy, which is the energy of the universe, not of the earth. So they are not of the earth. They are of the universal plane. And around planet Earth, there are 3 grid systems of light that were placed there before humans ever came to the Earth. And those 3 grid systems, and we call a grid system crisscross energies of light, these protect this planet. They help this planet stay in balance when they're not interfered with by the many thousands of satellites that have been recently launched into our atmosphere. But these 3 grid systems protect the planet from destructive energy, an energy that is perhaps too powerful for our physical well-being. The universal rays are very powerful. So they come through the gateway at this time of 13 ascended masters. So the ascended masters are gateways or portals of energy that the consciousness of the universe of creation, which we call the universal rays, flows through these masters. And then it is helped to move through those 3 grid systems of the earth. And a trained healer learns to channel that consciousness from the master through their being to the person that they are working on or helping and supporting. And it's very powerful. It's so powerful that when we train our healers, when they're working with prana energy, which they do during the healing because they bring balance to the body, we spend 20 minutes in our healing sessions just bringing balance to the body, Why do we do that? So the body is able to receive the universal ray consciousness without going into resistance. Because the power of the universal rays is so strong that the body would go into resistance and wouldn't receive it unless the body is brought into balance first. And we use sound and we use prana energy to bring the body into balance before we begin to channel the universal rays to the person. Because when we channel the universal rays from the masters, we're not just working on the physical body. We are working on 12 energetic bodies of consciousness. And while you can't see them, perhaps, each and every being has 12 energy bodies of consciousness, not just their physical body. And these 12 bodies make up the auric field of the person. So the healer is trained to channel that energy through them, through their crown chakra, coming in, and it goes out through their hands to the person. And as I said, the energy is so powerful that when we train our healers, we make sure that one of their hands, when we're using universal rays, their left hand usually, is always facing down to the earth so that it is earth. So that the healer doesn't fall over. So the energy is flowing through them, but it's also flowing into the earth as well. So they are grounded and supported. When we use prana energy, we don't need to do that. But with the plasmic energy of the universal rays, we do, because we have seen healers fall over when they don't do that, because the energy is so strong. And when a healer is really channeling the universal rays, often you'll see them having to take off their cardigans or their jackets or whatever, because they get very hot because of the power of the rays. The hands get hot, their body gets hot, and they can feel the expansion in their body. And the other beautiful thing is about this work is because the healer is channeling the consciousness of the rays through their being directly from an ascended master, the healer also receives a healing. Now we see regularly when a practitioner is using universal rays on a regular basis and they're doing it correctly and they're actually channeling the energy from the master through their being, earthing it to the ground, that over a period of time their consciousness changes. It's as if they're doing their own mystery school, working with the masters. There's a lot of growth that happens with a practitioner who is well trained and knows what they're doing with the rays. I've seen so many practitioners or students who really know what they're doing. And I see them when they start and I see them 6 months later, and there's a huge difference in their consciousness because they're moving energy through them and they're receiving healings every single time they do the work. The 13 masters hold the keys for these rays because they have learned the mastery of the creation principles that these rays bring in. Now, the most powerful of these three rays is ray 1, 2, and 3. And ray 1, which is El Moira, he is the master that is the gateway for this ray. And ray 1 is all about will, free will, divine will, co-creating with both, making the right choices in your life, which is always sometimes a very challenging thing to do for all of us. And often we make choices that don't serve us. So often we're asked to work with ray 1 to align our will with the will of the divine, to work together. And this ray helps you do that. It helps you to release the resistance of it. It shows you where you are not using your will to your highest potential. And it helps you to come into strength in your being to make the right choices in your life. The second ray is ray 2, which is all about unconditional love. So it encompasses all aspects of love. And it has 2 masters. And it's no surprise considering how important love is in our lives and in our growth. So ray 2 is all about love. And the 2 masters are Lord Kutumi. Now, Lord Kutumi looks after the lower level of love, more the earthly aspect of love, the physical aspect of love, the ego aspect of love, the personality aspect of love. And Lord Lanto, who looks after the higher aspect of love, which is that desirable state of unconditional love, which brings us into acceptance of all that is, no matter what it is. And so that's a much higher concept. So Lord Kutumi works very much through all the issues of love that we have, all the stories that we create in our humanity about love. And Lord Lanto works with the higher consciousness, the spiritual consciousness of love. And the creation principles of the universe that govern love and how love is to be experienced and how love is to be shared, it comes through this ray and through these 2 masters. And then the last ray, the last of the 3 important rays, is ray 3, which is all about creation. It's all about potential. And Hilarion is the master. He's not very well known on this planet, but he does a lot of work in other places, but he does work with the earth, with love. And he works to show you that there is always a higher potential. And this is one of the guiding creation principles of this universe. It's about choices. It's about, are you choosing to create what will serve you? It's about, are you asking, what is the highest potential for me? And how will this also bring a higher potential for everyone involved in whatever it is that I am creating on this planet? Because that's also important. On a more practical level, it really helps you to manifest. Ray 3 helps you to manifest your higher potential. It won't support your lower potential, but it will show you where you're choosing a lower potential over a higher potential. And it will support your consciousness to make a shift, to choose something that will work for you more than something that won't. So it helps you make right choices. So rays 1, 2, and 3 are really the mastery for humanity. They're master journeys. And just working on one of those journeys in a lifetime will take you through your whole lifetime and beyond. But these rays, when you receive them, will really support you to manifest that creation energy, those principles in your life that will bring you grace and bring you ease in life. And then we have 4 more rays, the lower rays that work with the lower energy bodies, that are all rays of experience. And when we have these rays, they talk about the experiences we're having. And ray 4 is aligned with Serapis Bay. And Serapis Bay is a very powerful master. And he is the master that's really well known in Egypt. He was a master of ascension. He's the master of all the esoteric mystery schools in the universe, not just on the earth, but in the universe as a whole. And he is a really good teacher of students. And Ray 4 is all about the experiences you're having on earth. It's about what you're choosing in balance, drama and chaos, or harmony and balance. And in every moment we have a choice. So when this ray comes through, it's helping you make a choice to bring harmony and balance into your life and to step out of drama and chaos. And so it's a ray that's very important to this planet at the moment. And I have to excuse myself because I've told you Valerian was ray 3, and of course Valerian's not ray 3. Paul the Venetian is ray 3. I rather like Valerian, so I was getting excited about him. But Paul the Venetian is the one that teaches you about ray 3, and I do apologize for misplacing the master. Now, ray 5 is Hilarion, and ray 5 is all about, and he's the master, as I said, that works not just on the earth, he works in many other realms. He's a very universal master, very high frequency, and he is all about the principle of, are you going to sit in the lower mind or are you going to connect with the higher mind? Where are you seeing your perspective? Is it going to be the small, limited perspective or the bigger perspective of the universe? It's a principle of creation that tells you there is a much bigger picture out there than perhaps what you're seeing in your mind. And so when this ray comes in, it's asking you to see the bigger perspective, the bigger picture, to step out of the small picture, to step out of the limited viewpoint that perhaps you have, that you're very attached to for whatever reason, and to really see the bigger picture, to see the universe as a whole, and not to just see it through the small perspective of the human mind. So as you can understand, that's why he spends a lot of time in other places beside the earth. Ray 6 is Lord Sananda. Now here's the gateway for Ray 6, because Ray 6 is all about owning your divinity, accepting that you are a divine being of light, that you really are a divine spirit here in the physical body on the earth. And of course, most of us struggle with that. He teaches us that we are divine, that we all come from the God source, and that we are all part of that. And he teaches us to accept that. So Ray 6, the consciousness of Ray 6, when it comes in, it's asking you to see your higher truth. It's asking you to come out of your victim mode, asking you to come out of your belief that you are not good enough, that you are not worthy enough, that you will never receive what you want to receive. He comes to tell you that you are worthy, that you are good enough. And that's the consciousness that comes through when a healer is working on you. And it will come through when there's any part of you that is holding on to old karma of self-worth. And the last of the lower rays is Saint Germain, governed by Saint Germain, Porter of Saint Germain. Saint Germain is a master that loves humanity, absolutely loves humanity. He spent a long time on the earth in the human body, several hundred years. And he loved people, he loved music, he loved dancing. He loved everything about humanity. And Ray 7 is always about the spiritual self. Whenever Ray 7 appears, it's asking you to understand you have a spiritual path to walk. But it asks you to include that spiritual path in your earth path, in your human life, not to make it separate, but to follow the spiritual path, to become the spiritual seeker as a human being, as a person, and to use it every day in your life, not to create a separate entity for your spiritual path. Ray 7 is about transformation. It calls you to transform, to change. So whenever Ray 7 comes into your life, it's telling you it's time to change. It's telling you it will support you to transform. So when it comes through, when you're on the healing table receiving, it is affecting any consciousness within you that is resistant to change, that is frightened of change, that doesn't want to change because they're fearful of where it's going to take you. And that consciousness comes in and holds you and supports you and guides you further and asks you, come on, it's okay, come with us, we'll support you. And that's the Ray 7. So those last 4 rays are all about the experiences you're having on the earth. And that's the consciousness, each of the consciousness. So we're looking at the creation principle. The creation principles for living in the physical world with grace and ease. The first 3 are to use your free will in conjunction with divine will. Be guided by divine will. Make your choices through the guidance of divine will. Open your heart to love and accept what comes to meet you in life and learn from it. And understand that there is no limitation. There is always a higher potential, another choice. The universe is great. Nothing is limited within the universe. They're the first 3 major principles of creation in this universe for the human form. The next 4 are choose harmony and balance. Come out of drama and chaos. Make a choice for harmony and balance. Lift your consciousness, your viewpoint to the higher mind of your being, to your higher spirit, no longer sitting in the lower mind. Own your divinity. Accept you are a divine being. And lastly, embrace change, embrace transformation, because in this universe, change is constant. No matter how much you resist, change is something that is always there. And whenever you resist it, you will only have struggle. When you let go and surrender and understand that change is always going to come and flow with it, then you will always have grace and ease. So they're the main principles of creation in this universe that are carried on the consciousness of these rays. They're the intentions of each one of these rays of consciousness that come through the healer and come into your being and affect your consciousness. Now, the other thing that came through with this healing practice from the masters was the creation of the soul charts. Now, the masters say that we all come in with a plan of what we're being asked to focus on, what we're being asked to create, what is our plan for creation and manifestation here. And this plan is always of a higher consciousness. It's not of the lower physical consciousness. It's always has a higher perspective to it because it's about the evolution of the soul, not the evolution of the ego. And so when a healer of universal rays begins to work with you, they will do your soul chart. And this soul chart will tell you, firstly, 3 things, 3 very important things. It will tell you where your soul really wants to go, what your soul has come to focus on. It will tell you what is the karma that you have come to resolve? What is the karma that has been following you lifetime after lifetime that needs to be brought back to truth, back to its light? What part of your consciousness is hiding in the shadows, has forgotten its truth and needs to be brought back to truth? What karma needs to be resolved? And thirdly, the path that your ego is taking. Now, what we often find is that the ego path and the soul path are very different. And I've often found with people that come to see me for healings when I was doing healings is that when I told the person about their soul path, which is very different to their ego path, there's almost this huge relief because they go, oh, I thought my ego path was my path. And it's always caused me a lot of stress or anxiety. And now I see that the soul path, that's giving me so much freedom. I feel so much lighter knowing that this is why my soul is here. So what we find is that the ego path often teaches us some skills or tools that our soul needs to follow its path. But the ego path is not our path. It's a teaching path, a learning path, so that our soul can really evolve. So we learn those three things about our divine path through the soul chart that a healer does. And then we learn the areas in our life where we are supported to implement the soul path in our lives. So we learn what gifts our emotional self hold or needs to hold and develop so that our soul can find its way. We learn what our mind holds, our mental body holds, so that our soul can find its way. And we may not have developed those skills and we need to develop them more. We learn what our physical self and our physical body and our physical world, where we're focusing and where we perhaps need to focus more to serve and support our soul path. And we also learn the karma of our family lineage that we may need to work with, that we're already working with, or that we have created ourselves in another lifetime that we really need to work with in this lifetime. So the soul chart is imperative. It gives us such guidance. And so the healer learns to do the soul chart. We learn that in level 2 and level 3 of Universal Rays training. And it's a beautiful gift to give to your clients when you're doing healings and to really understand. And the beautiful thing about this, all the information of the Universal Rays gives you so much depth. You can do a very surface reading of the soul chart, but a good practitioner will go deeper and deeper and find more and more understanding within the soul chart in relationship to the soul chart, to what's happening in the healings with the meridians and with the body, and often what's happening with the karma. You know, one of the things that we do in level 2 and 3 is that we have a whole set of cards that I've channeled from the masters that tell you what the client needs to be focusing on, what's the focus of consciousness that they need to let go of or focus more on in their lives. And we've discovered also that in so many or nearly all healing practices, the very first time the client picks a card, it's usually the soul ray card. It's always about the soul path. We see this time and time again. It happens all the time. So I suppose I should show you, oh, have I got them here? I don't know if I have. Yeah. So we have these cards that the practitioners work with. I've got them upside down, I'm very sorry. And we have a booklet that's channeled that gives the guidance of what is really happening in the healing for the client. So all of that comes through when we're working with the client. So I think there's 38 of these in the pack. Over level 1 and 2, you learn about those. So the soul chart is very, very important. And as a healer, being open to channel the rays from the masters, really channeling that consciousness. And what does that mean? I spoke about channeling last month, and it really means being open to receive that powerful energy coming through that has intention, letting it flow through you and then sharing it through your hands with the client and working with that. It's very, very powerful. Now, I know some healers have asked, how do you talk about the rays to people who don't do spiritual work? Well, I always talk about it in this sense that what we're working with is energy, because we are energy healers, and we're working with energy that has intention. It has a meaning, it has a purpose. And that purpose is to serve and support the client, to create a better life for themselves, to change the way they think, to let go of old attachments to what doesn't help them or support them, to help them to see something else that they're not seeing, to change their perspective in some way. And that's really what it does, because often, if you can think of a circle in your life and there's something happening in your life and you're sitting over here, looking at it from here, that perspective, but really you should be sitting over here, looking at it from this perspective, because when you do the circle and go around to the other side, you see it from a very different perspective. And Universal Rays helps you to do that. You see it from a very different place. And maybe you've been seeing it from this place for a long time and it's limiting you and it's struggling and you've got challenge. And then suddenly you go around in circle. Oh, I'm trying to find out. You go around in circle and you go to the other side and you see it from a very different place. And it's like, it's like a whole different view that you had never seen before. And that changes everything. And that's what Universal Rays can do. We've seen it time and time again. Now, we teach Universal Rays in English, French, and in Russian, of course, and we teach it all around the world. And it's extremely powerful. Changes lives. Because it changes choices, it changes perspective, it changes karma, it changes how you see your world, and it helps you to grow and evolve. And that is so important, isn't it, today? So I'm hoping that has helped you a little bit to understand Universal Rays, but I'm very happy to answer any questions if anyone has about it. Elena, does that explain it? Has that helped? Don't know.
Yes, thank you very much. Let's wait for a few moments because people need time to write down questions.
Yeah, that's okay. Then you can ask.
Сколько занимает обучение, на что делится, на что получает?
Про обучение чуть попозже расскажу. Чем отличаются лучи от рейки? What is the difference between rays and reiki?
Reiki is energy. Now, I'll tell you this, I became a Reiki master 20 years ago, maybe 24 years ago. So I've studied Reiki. I haven't used it for a long time, so I may not be up to date. But Reiki comes through the codes of another master. Usually the original Reiki came through a Japanese master, and it came through a living person from a human being, from their codes, and you worked through their codes and through their stream of energy. So it's understanding that we all have streams of energy, and Reiki, you work through someone else's stream of energy. Universal rays is actually plasmic energy from the universe that is channeled through a gateway of a master, a universal master, who is not in the human form. That changes consciousness, and each ray is very specific. Now, it's the first time that these universal rays have been allowed to be channeled from the masters to humanity. It's never happened before. So there is a difference. So you're not working through someone else's stream, you are working directly. You are not being filtered through someone else's stream, you are working directly with a master consciousness, bringing universal rays through. There is nothing wrong with Reiki. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Reiki. It's very powerful. The universal rays and Reiki are very different. Reiki is excellent particularly for physical issues and emotional issues, very, very good. Universal rays is very, very good for karmic issues and for higher consciousness issues and for soul issues, working with your soul path. There's two different focuses.
Если есть сходство, это же вышка.
Тебя уже все слышат.
А есть ли сходство между тета-хилингом и универсальными лучами?
Second question, can you compare theta healing and universal rays?
Theta healing?
Theta healing, yes.
Yeah. It's different. It's a different approach, theta healing. No, I don't want to compare them. I prefer not to compare the healings. I would recommend to healers that you have several different tools in your toolbox. Don't compare them. They each do different things. So stop comparing healings. Have 2 or 3 different healing modalities in your toolbox and use them for the appropriate things. But there's no point in comparing them. I don't know much about, I've actually trained in theta. I trained in theta, I don't know, 18 years ago, 19 years ago. It may have changed a lot since then. I didn't find it particularly powerful for me, but that's for me. I prefer to work through the masters. But I know lots of people use theta, and it's very powerful.
Что значит вознесение для человека? How can you explain the term ascension? What ascension means for the human being?
Ascension is actually descension. Ascension is bringing your light here. Not about going somewhere. It's about bringing the light here to the earth, bringing the light of your spirit here. It is about merging with your higher consciousness. But it's not about going to your higher consciousness. It's about allowing your higher consciousness to be present here. So you begin the mergence. Ascension is mergence. It's not flying somewhere else. It's actually merging with your higher consciousness, bringing the light here, so that when you illuminate yourself, you lift yourself into a higher vibration, but you do it here on the earth. You don't go somewhere else. You're not lifting somewhere else. You don't need to ascend, to higher consciousness in the 14th dimension. We need to do it here in the 3rd dimension, 4th dimension, 5th dimension. We're here to embody the divine spirit of our being. And the more we work to do that, the more we create ascension through our soul path. Understand that you have a monad. You are part of a monad. In that monad, there are 12 souls. Each one of those souls has 12 extensions of itself. You are one of those extensions. You and I are an extension of our soul. There are 11 other extensions of your soul. There are 144 extensions of 12 souls in one monad. There is a divine presence, a higher consciousness, a source energy that creates those monads. To create ascension, we need to merge back with our higher consciousness, merge back into our soul. So do all our other extensions, all merge back together. And then all the souls have to merge together, and all the monads have to merge back to the divine spirit, back into source. So it isn't just about getting wings and flying somewhere. It's about mergence of your light and of your higher consciousness. The journey, a loving journey of expansion of your soul and of your being.
Как определить, когда человек идет на какой-то запрос с некой болью, не понимая, какой инструмент ему нужен, что ему достаточно медитации какой-то, рекомендации пойти на йогу, или он уже готов к лучам сразу? Насколько в этом арсенале нужно выбрать лучи и рекомендовать их человеку? Когда, например, не знаю, он убежденный атеист.
Обучаться, да, ты имеешь в виду, Саша?
Нет, не обучаться, именно на исцеление. Если целитель обладает разным инструментарием, достаточно может ему успокоить ему медитацией.
То есть ты как целитель, какой тебе инструмент выбрать?
Нет.
С такой позиции вопрос?
Да. Как определить, готов ли человек к лучам?
Нужны ли ему лучи или, например, рейки, да, или тета-хилинг? Как определить, наверное, для дополнительных вопросов?
So the question is, how can I understand what tool can I use with this person? Maybe this person is just a meditation, or she needs Reiki, she needs race, and is race good for everyone?
there were several questions there. So what was the first question, Lexi?
Okay, the question is, if we have one person, how can we choose appropriate tool to heal this person?
Okay,
How can
all right. Yeah. So I would give you an example. A person comes to you and their lives aren't flowing well for them. And they're choosing things to create things in their life that aren't serving them. So they're creating drama and stories, and they're struggling. They're really struggling. Then I would start them on a course of universal rays healing, because that's going to really start to shift their consciousness. Yeah. So if they're coming to you and they've got a bad back or a sore back, or they're struggling in their body, maybe use some Reiki on them as well. But, you know, if it's consciousness stuff, if it's about the way they're thinking about their life, and you can see that obviously they've got some unresolved karma, then work with the rays. The thing about the rays is it tells you so clearly what is happening for them. How does it do that? Through the soul chart. There's no guesswork. You don't have to guess. You don't have to do anything. You just do their soul chart. It tells you what's going on. Then you work with the cards, and the cards will tell you what's going on and what they need. Immediately will tell you what's going on and what they need. And then you work with the book that tells you what they need to release. So there's a book and it tells you. So it's all here. It's all so clear. So there's nobody having to guess what's going on for the person, because every step of the way you are being guided. It tells you, and the person's being guided. So you can talk to them about that. So it makes it very easy. If people want to change their life, if they really want to evolve, then universal rays is, for me, the best practice. It's not something you do one off. You know, you can go and have Reiki once and that's fine. Universal rays, to do a full healing, you need to have 3 sessions. 3 sessions, not one, 3 sessions. That's a healing, 3 sessions, because it's an ongoing process. The other amazing thing is that healers are given 5 angels to work with, 5 healing angels, that every time the healer works, those around their table, there are 5 angels working with them. And so many times, not just for me, but for other practitioners, I know that when I've finished with the client, I know when I'm finished, I'm complete. And I go and write up my notes, or I go and get a glass of water for the client. The client's still out. They're still, you know, they're in another place, because if you're doing universal rays correctly, your client will not be present. They will go somewhere else. They will be not unconscious, but they'll be very deep on the table. They may not come back into their body for another 10 minutes. And when they do, they'll often tell me, oh, I felt you touching my feet, or I felt you touching my head. But I can say, I wasn't in the room when you felt that. And that's because the 5 angels that are working with the healer are still working on the client after the healer has finished. So it's not just the healer doing the work. There are these other beings that are working with you. And this happens all the time in universal rays healings, where the client's on the table and they think you're touching them or whatever. You're not touching them at all. You're sitting in a chair, or you've gone out to get a glass of water, and they can feel the energies of the angels. And it's not you, it's the 5 angels that are working. So, and what also happens, and we know this because we check the cards that they're working on to see if they're complete or not. And has this energy or consciousness been completed in the healing? And sometimes it's not. And what happens, we like to do sessions 2 weeks apart to give integration time. And what happens in those 2 weeks is often amazing. The card will complete during the 2 weeks. When they come back, the card's complete. And that's because the healing energies of the masters and the angels are working on those people for the 2 weeks before they come back to see you. And so the healing continues. It's not just the practitioner doing the healing continues. And we have seen this time and time again. I've seen this numerous times for me, and I've seen it numerous times for practitioners that I know very well. So this is a big difference with universal race healing. The healer is not doing it on their own. There are 5 angels they work with, the masters they're working with. When the client leaves and goes home, the healing continues, usually during their sleep time, until they come back for the next session. And we know this because we see the card change the next time they come back. It says, oh, the consciousness is now shifted, where it wasn't before when they left, but between the 2 weeks, it shifts. And also, we check all the chakras in universal race healing. So we check and see every time the client comes back in, what's happened with the chakras, and we check the meridians, because we work on the meridians. So we can tell what's happened with their energy in those 2 weeks. So there's lots of ways of confirming what's going on with the energy in the healing. It's very powerful. Very powerful.
Вопрос в том, будет ли совпадать карта души, если сделать 2 разных целителя. The question is, if 2 different healers create my soul map, soul chart, will it be different or the same?
It shouldn't be. Always go to the first one. Always go to the first soul chart. Whoever created the first soul chart, that's the correct one. Because if there's 2 different ones, it's not correct. So always go back to the first one. And if you're a healer of universal race healing and you're working with someone that's been to another healer, contact that healer and get the original soul chart. Or get your client to bring the original soul chart, because the soul chart does not change.
И так далее. Мотивация у человека хочет помочь своему ребенку. Это может быть мотивация верная, либо мотивация должна быть иная. То есть с какой мотивацией должен человек прийти в целительную практику?
The question is, what could be a rightful motivation to join race healing training? For example, one person wants to help her children be healthier. Is it a good motivation to join universal race healing training?
To help your children, depends on how old the children are. If we don't use universal rays on children under 14 or 16, I think it is these days. Is it 16? I'll check. But so we only use white light. We don't use universal rays with children or pregnant women. So and we use prana and white light only with children and pregnant women. Why? Because the chakras are not developed enough in children. And so, of course, the same thing with pregnant women, the baby, the chakras are not developed enough. So white light and prana only for that. I never recommend that you do healings on children or your own children or someone or even your partners. You can practice, but I always believe that we always have an agenda. We are not free of agendas with our loved ones. So I believe personally that you're much better to get them to go to someone else than to do it yourself. But you can practice with them. But if you really want an unbiased healing without any filter, then get your loved ones to go to another healer that you trust. Because all of us have filters when it comes to our loved ones. We all have an agenda of what we want for them, and that can interfere with the healing consciousness. So I always think, be free. Let them go to someone you trust. Find someone you trust. The other thing I was going to say was that you can do universal rays healing on yourself. So when we teach universal rays healing, we do teach practitioners how to do it for themselves, on themselves. So you can practice doing a healing on yourself. If you are open to receiving it yourself, and you can practice doing one on yourself. We have a recording for that. It's in English, but perhaps Alexi will translate that, and teach you how to do it. And of course, the other thing is when you do the training, you get 4 activations, 4 channeled energies that come through you. One is to connect you with prana. One is to connect you with the 12 masters so that you can channel them. One is to connect you with the prana. And I'm trying to think what the 4th one is. Alexi, what's the 4th one? Elena, what's the 4th one? It's 4. The masters. The rays. One's to connect you with the rays. Sorry. So. See, Lexi, somebody there has got, can you see that? Somebody's got a really beautiful ray of light going through their room. Can you see that? Don't know, I can't pronounce their name, it's in Russian. See, it's got a pink ray of light going through their room. Can you see that? Yeah. Now that's not universal rays, that's a ray of light. It's beautiful, but it's actually not universal rays. You will not see universal rays. They don't come through light.
Если
But it's a very lovely ray of light. It's beautiful light. And many healers work with rays of light, but that's not universal rays.
Yes, we all see it.
It's a beautiful ray of light.
Луч света.
Yeah, many healers work with rays of light like that, but that is not a universal ray. Any more questions?
Can we work with genetic diseases, with invalids?
autism maybe like with the spectrum?
So is there some limitation to kind of diseases we can work with through
Look,
race?
Yeah. Look, let me share with you what the masters have told me. When consciousness comes into the body and stays in the physical body for a long time, it creates disease if it's imbalanced. So then, to shift disease in the body, you need to work with both the body and you need to work with the consciousness. You're not going to shift disease in the body, particularly if it's been in the body for a long time, just working with consciousness or just working with the body. And sometimes disease in the body has been there for so long that it actually will destroy the body. So, but the thing is, if consciousness destroys the body, if disease destroys the body, it's because that imbalance has been there for quite some time. And it's been very destructive, probably being carried by the person for several lifetimes. Now, as an imbalance in their consciousness. Now we can shift that imbalance so that if, for instance, the person passes over, they don't carry that imbalance into the next lifetime. So it doesn't affect the next body they inhabit. But sometimes it has been in the body for too long and it won't shift. But sometimes when you change the consciousness, it will help the body to let go and it will shift. So when you're working with disease in the body, there is no guarantee because it depends on how far the disease has entrenched itself in the cells. So, and how long they've been carrying it as a consciousness in their being, which could be many lifetimes. So we're talking about a consciousness that's not in balance, that has been affecting the person for many lifetimes. If it's only a relatively new consciousness that hasn't infected the cells too deeply, then yes, change the consciousness, work with the body. We can do universal rays on the body and it will shift. But if the person's been carrying that karma for many lifetimes, it may not. And also the other thing healers need to remember is you really need to remember how willing the person is to let it go. One of the things we learn in universal rays is that before we start a healing, we ask the client to give permission to the body and to all parts of themselves to receive the healing. This is because if the person doesn't want to receive the healing, it will not matter what you do, they won't receive the healing. They'll resist. And you don't have the power to change that, even though you think you might. Please don't be arrogant about this. You don't. You cannot affect somebody else's energetic field unless they are willing to allow it. So firstly, we need them to want to shift it. And some people hold on to this old energy for all sorts of reasons, and they don't want to let it go. And so they carry it with them. If we can shift the consciousness enough to assist them to let it go, then whether it heals in the body in this lifetime or not, they will not carry that through into the next. And that is a gift. But sometimes the person doesn't want to heal. And you need to understand that. So if you can help them to shift that old energy that's in resistance to healing, then that's also a gift that you're giving. So it's not always just about a disease in the body, whether it's genetic, and particularly if it's genetic, because that means it's held by the genetic collective. It's not just one person. It's held by the family lineage. So it's looking at that. So that's why a soul chart is really good to look at, because you can go and have a look at the soul chart, see what the genetic lineage holds, what this person is able to release, and then go back and have a look and see where that affects the physical systems of the body. And you'll always get a link. And go back and see what meridians it affects and see where the meridians sit, and work with the meridians and work with the physical systems of the body. And you can do that as well. So there's a lot you can do. And it will depend, person by person, what happens.
Леш, я написала в сообщение про активацию.
What was that, Alexei?
Появлялись ли дети, которые уже обладали даром вот этих мастеров, или обладали, несли уже какой-то луч за собой, ну, то есть могли его как-то проявлять на Земле? Были ли такие дети на Земле? Встречались ли?
Именно дети?
Ну, у детей вообще, которые без обучения, но уже как-то вот понимали, что они обладают каким-то лучом или каким-то знанием. Именно мастера могли бы, был ли такой случай, что мастера как-то вот...
Да, хорошо.
Да.
Can this be an inborn gift for a child, for a person, to be connected to masters, to raise, like from your birth? So you don't need to study anything. You already know from your birth and can use it.
Perhaps. I won't ever say no to anything. But as the universal rays have never been offered as a healing program on this planet before, I'd be interested to know whether or not the person has worked with them somewhere else. So, but maybe they're doing something else with the masters. I don't know. We'd have to find out more details.
No, it's a different question.
Okay.
Can a person be born with this gift to channel masters and give race healing, probably in his own style?
He'd have to ask the masters. Alexei, I want to say something because I don't like giving false information.
Я хочу кое-что сказать.
In my experience in 23 years, I work on the mentors, as you know, with at the moment 85 people. I have taught hundreds and hundreds of students around the world. I teach people how to channel. I have only ever met one other person that channels the masters in the same way that I do. Deeply as an embodied channel. The reason I do it, according to the masters, is because I have done it before on Sirius. So I've done it in other lifetimes. And I certainly never sought it out. So there are people on the planet who claim they channel the masters. But I haven't met more than one other person that really channels a council of masters in the same way. Doesn't mean to say I have met everybody, but it's not a common thing. I can say that. So, and I say that, you know, not through ego, I say it through experience. So. And if you're in connection with the masters, then you would know the answer to that question and you wouldn't be asking me. So.
Thank you.
Did you translate that?
I translated all of this.
Oh, you're beautiful.
So we've got one more question.
Okay, last one.
Yeah, good. Как понять, что человек проводит истинный ченнелинг, либо это не истинный ченнелинг? How can we understand? Is it a true channel or not true channel?
Yeah. Well, that's easy. I teach this. I teach it. I have been teaching it for 15 years. If somebody is channeling a master, for example, and they are embodying that master, because there are two ways of channeling. One is an embodied channel, one is a download channel. So if you are embodying a master, then when you're in channel, it affects you when they're channeling. You expand, your frequency expands. Now, for example, so many of my students will tell you that they think they fall asleep when they listen to my channels, because what we call them, they get knocked out, they become quite unconscious because they go into another state. And that happens through the frequency of the master. Now, if you are channeling your higher consciousness, then there will be an expanded frequency, an expanded vibration that people will sense. There will never, never be any separation energy, because a higher consciousness holds no separation energy. So the channel will never, and I mean never, create fear or separation of any sort. There will be no judgment, no fear, and there will never be a sense that you are less than the being that is being channeled. So that's how you know there is an energy of high frequency. There is a channel of a higher consciousness. If somebody is channeling their mind, then it is just their mind being channeled. They're just speaking. And it changes nothing in your consciousness. It doesn't make you feel expanded. It doesn't make you feel uplifted. It might be a lot of lovely words, but it doesn't actually shift energy inside of you. And a true channel shifts energy inside of you. Makes you
Yes,
feel
thank you.
Какой вопрос?
So have we got any more questions? Because it's time for me to go.
Yes, it's good for now.
Okay. Can I say one last thing?
Хочу сказать вам последнее.
If you want to know more about universal rays, go and have a healing with a practitioner that knows what they're doing. Elena's there. Go and have a healing with Elena or Alexi. And experience it for yourself. That's how you know about universal rays. And then you'll know. So go and experience it. Feel what it feels like. Let yourself be touched. Let yourself receive. And be willing to open to something new in your life. Be willing to really walk your soul's journey and evolve. Be willing to do that. Blessings, everyone. Blessings to you. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Alexi. Thank you, everyone. I don't know if you celebrate Christmas, but if you do, have a wonderful December. And I'll see you on the other side. Blessings, everyone. Lots of love.
Thank you so much.
Лидуль, привет.
Я здесь. Привет, привет.
Давайте подожди. Сколько лучистых.
Да уж, это точно.
Давай, раскачиваем Казахстан, потом Россию.
Да, ребята, у нас трансляция прямо из студии, где будет проходить обучение в Алмате с нашей замечательной дружной командой. А в следующую субботу в 12 по Алмате, в 9 по Москве мы расскажем детально уже про само обучение, тем, кому именно это интересно. Презентуем, и самое главное, там будет в конце групповое целение лучами, которое мы втроем проведем для вас. Так что, если хотите ощутить на себе, то есть очень простой вариант это сделать. В следующую субботу в 12 по Алмате, в 9 по Москве. Сейчас будет ссылка в чате на регистрацию и на информацию, так что вот в чате в Zoom можете прочесть. Сивиль, скинь нам, пожалуйста. И также ссылку на телеграм-канал. И очень важно, что обучение надо начинать прямо в ближайшее время, несмотря на то, что живой тренинг начинается 26 января. Вам потребуется минимум 2-3 недели, чтобы закончить онлайн-часть.
Да.
И вот это большая программа, на которую вам надо уже сейчас записываться и обучаться. Так что не тяните, чтобы получить качественное обучение. В ближайшее время присоединяйтесь, записывайтесь, начинайте проходить, уже знакомиться с лучами. И в субботу можете на себе ощутить эти энергии. Будет красивая, приятная шавасана релаксация с лучами, которая исцелит вас. Приходите. Вот ссылка на регистрацию и на телеграм-канал в чате. Заходите. Мы еще пару минут здесь. Да, встреча будет в онлайне. Встреча в субботу будет в онлайне, а обучение будет вживую в Алмате. Первый раз мы делаем только вживую. Онлайн-обучение начинается сейчас, оно, соответственно, в онлайне.
Закрытая группа. Закрытая группа, количество человек ограничено.
Да, у нас группа ограниченная, 24 места. Ну что, Руслан, тогда все, ссылки есть. Мы их еще раз продублируем на почту всем, так что кто не получил ссылки, откройте почту, там все будет. Все, друзья, всем спасибо. До встречи в субботу.